What's going on, you guys? It is your boy, the American F1 fan, Eric Ringo here, and Spa has finally ended. The Belgian Grand Prix has ended, and Max Verstappen wins in dominant fashion in Belgium. And I said it right before the break when he won in Hungary. This championship is over, and you can kind of see it from Ferrari. It just doesn't look like they're putting in near the effort that they really should be to try to hang in there with Max Verstappen, and it's just not. I mean, it's a dominating performance by Red Bull and Max Verstappen. But let's talk about news and notes all throughout the Belgian Grand Prix weekend. Let's talk about it here in this video, so come along with me. So let's start about the first big announcement of the weekend, and that was Audi is going to be joining Formula One in 2026. Now, we knew that the regulations that were being worked on with the FIA and with Formula One for 2026 was definitely something that Audi, Porsche, a lot of engine suppliers were looking towards. And with the announcement of more reliable more fuel sustainability, changes to the engine, getting rid of the MGUK, stuff like that, it really attracted Audi. And so Audi will be joining the grid in 2026 as an engine supplier and maybe as a team itself. As we've also heard, because of the rumors that have been going around, Alfa Romeo will be no longer the title sponsor of Sauber after this season. So 2023, Alfa Romeo will go away, and so there's been talks that Audi may start to finally kind of put their touch. And so we've heard the talk that Audi is potentially going to buy out Sauber, or at least take a 75% stake in that team, and then as we progress through, once we get to 2026, they'll go away from the Ferrari engines and obviously add in the Audi engines into their team. Also announced this weekend from McLaren, Daniel Ricciardo will not be back in the car in 2023, and that was probably one of the worst kept secrets by McLaren. You could literally hear just all the talk from McLaren about Daniel's just not doing what they want him to do. He's just not putting together a season like they would have wanted. And so finally it was announced that Daniel Ricciardo is leaving McLaren at the end of the season. But also now McLaren had supposedly signed Oscar Piastri to a contract. Alpine says that they have him under contract for next season. So they are going to be going to court, and we're going to find out maybe this week who is going to get the services of Oscar Piastri. And I think if Alpine is thinking about this, if Alpine wins this case, you have to wonder, is Alpine even going to use him next season, or potentially leave him as a reserve driver again? I don't know the specifics of Oscar's contract, but the fact that he's basically made it known that he does not want to race for this team, like he would have much rather gone to McLaren. If Alpine has his contract, you would have to wonder if Alpine maybe doesn't kind of stick it to him a little bit and make him sit on the sidelines again for another season while we potentially get, the debuts of Theo Pourchaire, we get, Logan Sargent's, Felipe Drugovic's. Like, there's a chance that Oscar may sit on the sideline again this year. And I don't like how Otmar Snafsauer, and I know I pronounced that way incorrectly, but I don't like how Otmar, basically said he questions Piastri's integrity. He thought that he had more integrity, all throughout interviews in the weekend, and not necessarily the way you want to go if you're truly wanting to have Oscar as your number 2 guy behind Esteban Ocon next season. Not necessarily the way to go to sit there and question his integrity. So we're going to see, hopefully this case, they'll hear the case this week. I don't know if we'll hear of what a decision may be before going into the Dutch Grand Prix next weekend. But hopefully we'll get a decision before then, and so we'll kind of know, that'll kind of shape up the 2023 grid a little bit more, knowing who's going to be in the Alpine seat. And probably then we should learn who will take over the McLaren seat. So just before today's Belgian Grand Prix, it was announced that the Belgian Grand Prix will be returning on the 2023 calendar. And I, for one, I love Spa. Usually we tend to get, more exciting races than this year. But I did pose the question on Twitter, is this really why we're bringing Spa back? I feel like that we get these tracks that everybody wants to stay at, like a Spa, like a Monaco. Like, those are the two biggest examples, where, teams and drivers want to go back to those races, even though they don't present, fantastic racing. Like, I mean, if you watch the Belgian Grand Prix today, it was a race for all of about 7-8 laps. Max Verstappen made up almost, I think it was 8 positions on the opening lap. Then they went under safety car. And, I mean, Max literally sliced through the field in almost no time. And once the 10-lap window kind of came around and Max was in the lead, it was basically done. It was signed, sealed, and delivered. And I feel like that we need to get more tracks on the F1 calendar that are going to promote better racing. And, with the issues that we had last season in Spa, with literally running a one-lap race under such wet conditions, then you get this year where it's an absolute, to me, it was a snooze fest. I think there were times I just kind of tuned out of the race. I mean, yes, you were getting some decent midfield passes, but there just wasn't a whole lot of action to it. And you could tell the announcers were kind of trying to make it a little bit more exciting, but to me, it was a boring race. And with it, with the race being added to the 2023 calendar, we've got to start thinking, not only as fans, but the teams and the FIA need to start thinking, what are we going to be able to do to promote more exciting racing? We've put these new regulations in place. We've started to see the field come a little bit closer together, but there's something else we've got to do, because there are some racetracks that are just absolutely dog-ass boring, and, we've got to do something. Now let's finally talk about race results from the Belgian Grand Prix. Obviously, Max Verstappen wins. Sergio Perez takes second. Masterful, just dominating Red Bull performance today. Even with the new kind of floor regulations put in place, it kind of showed that Red Bull, has still got a very, very fast car and was just able to dominate this whole weekend, even with Max starting further back in the field after taking some engine penalties this weekend. You had Carlos Sainz finishing third, but he was getting chased down by George Russell there towards the end of the race. Luckily, for Carlos, George made a mistake in there, ran a little bit wide, and, basically ruined his chance of getting a podium position. But, you have to wonder if maybe this wasn't just a track that Ferrari knew was not going to be one of their best tracks. It was a weekend, another weekend for Ferrari to forget, and just absolutely miserable for Ferrari. You had George Russell did finish fourth. You had Fernando Alonso come back and finish fifth. So you had Charles Leclerc try to go for fastest lap of the race, and he just comes out behind Fernando Alonso and wasn't able to get a fastest lap in. His fastest lap was still 0.6 behind what Max Verstappen ran as his fastest lap. And Charles Leclerc, who would have finished fifth if they just left him out and, didn't try to pit him at the end to try to get that fastest lap, would have finished fifth. But now that they pit him, put him on the soft tires, tried to get him to go for the fastest lap, he ends up finishing sixth here. Really, really, and I said this at the beginning of the video, the championship's over. Max Verstappen's your champion. Red Bull's going to be your constructors champion. Like Ferrari they didn't do anything over the summer, to make a change and get, Binotto out, and it's more of the same from them. You had Esteban Ocon finishing right behind Charles Leclerc. Great race from him as he started in the back of the pack. So then finishing in 8th, you had Sebastian Vettel. Great race from him. Some great battles all throughout the race. Was up there for a time, like in the 5th, 6th spot. Eventually the Aston Martins kind of dropped down the order a little bit. But, still great race from Sebastian Vettel. It's a shame that he's going to be retiring from the sport. But I think he's going to do everything to leave Aston Martin, to leave Formula One on a high note, and this was another one of those getting some good points today. You had Pierre Gasly finishing 8th, and this is after both AlphaTauris started in the pit lane. Some questions are being risen about why they were being started from pit lane. They just magically take all these engine penalties today. There was some talk that really may have helped out Red Bull in the grand scheme of things, and just maybe Red Bull, kind of talked to AlphaTauri and said, hey, you guys may want to change those engines. I can't tell you if they're going to last that long, so you may want to change them, and AlphaTauri did it and started from pit lane, so maybe helping out Max Verstappen a little bit more today. Then you had Alexander Albon finish in the 10th points-paying position. He was all the way up in 6th at the start of the race. Great race from Williams. It was a very quiet race for Alex. Had some moments where he was, under threat from the likes of Lando Norris, Daniel Ricciardo at times during the race, but was able to hold his position and finish 10th in the final points-paying position. Then rounding out the grid, you had Lance Stroll finishing 11th, Lando Norris finishing 12th, Lance just finishing on the outside of the points. You had Yuki Tsunoda finishing 12th. Great race from him. Again, he was another one of those that started from the pit lane. So, great recovery drive from him. Guan Yu Zhou finishing 13th. He was the lone Alfa Romeo finisher today. Very quiet race from him. Good to have him finish a race for once when we have seen the issues from Alfa Romeo. You had Daniel Ricciardo finishing 14th. You can tell now that McLaren is totally favoring Lando Norris as they go throughout the rest of the season. Left Daniel out there. You saw them undercut with Lando Norris, then left Daniel Ricciardo out there for, quite a long time, and you could just tell. I think I think they need to legitimately think about just putting somebody else in that position, because otherwise you're just going to continue to, dogpile on Daniel Ricciardo, who's still, a fantastic driver and is going to be, looking for a seat in 2023. He's not retiring. So, definitely looking for a seat. Talks he may go to Haas, an American team. The Americans love him. If you've ever seen him on some of Trevor Noah and Stephen Colbert, you've had him there a couple times. The Americans really love him. So I would definitely take him at Haas if he were to go there. Then you had Kevin Magnussen finishing 16th. This was a weekend for Haas to forget as well. But even in the beginning of the weekend, it seemed like they knew that, with the upgrades that they had, that this car was not suited for Spa, and it was one of those that it was going to be a hard weekend for him, and it really showed, especially today. Then you had Mick Schumacher finishing right behind him. Again, it was a really bad race for Haas this weekend. Nicholas Latifi was the last finisher of this race. Then you had Valtteri Bottas, who retired from the race after trying to avoid a spinning Nicholas Latifi on lap 2, beached it into the gravel trap just after the chicane from the Kemmel Straight and just couldn't get out of there. And then Lewis Hamilton, he retired from the race on lap 1 after, making contact with Fernando Alonso and basically going airborne. tried to shut the door on Alonso when just there was no space there for him to do it. Car went airborne, and he eventually ended up having to retire the car. So, just a bad race all the way around for Lewis Hamilton. But guys, let me know what you guys think of the Belgian Grand Prix. I'm going to be honest, it was a snooze fest for me. But guys, let me know in the comment section down below what you guys thought of the Belgian Grand Prix. What do you thought of some of the other news and notes that came out of the weekend from the Belgian Grand Prix? Guys, slap a like on this video as always for more daily and weekly Formula One content. We've got the second part of a triple header weekend coming up. We've got the Dutch Grand Prix coming up next weekend, so we'll be doing a race preview for that. But guys, also subscribe if you guys are new to my channel for more daily and weekly Formula One content. It helps me out so much. We are closing in on 200 subscribers, so you guys obviously love the content. So guys, keep subscribing if you guys are new. But guys, for the American F1 fan, I'm Eric Ringel, signing off.